Hello my friends, it's Bella and welcome to Beauty on a Budget. And my favourite this month for television, for movies, books and anything else that I found entertaining. Starting with Netflix. I think Netflix has got some really good films on at the moment, really good things. I always looked for the films. I always went for the films, but I've started now going for TV shows as well, you know, so it's like a series and watching it as like a box set, which I like because I'm so impatient when something comes on once a week. Oh, I've got to wait for next week for the next. So I like to wait till it's on Netflix and get like the whole box set. So Netflix, and my first thing is a film, and it's called Unbelievable. Now this is based on a true story, and it's about a young girl who's captured and kept hostage and treated unbelievably, but she escapes. She narrowly escapes, and it's her story that when she gets home, she has to convince her family that this has happened to her. Because a lot of them don't believe her. They think she's run off and, you know, spent a few days somewhere and she's trying to cover her tracks. And it's not until, well, I don't want to tell you too much, but we'll leave it at that, but it's how she gets her truth proved. And it's based on a true story. I think it was in California, in Florida, I believe. But it's really heartfelt, and you really feel for this young girl, you know, because she's not flashy, she's quite quiet, quite an introvert, and think, you know, once you get out something like that, the first people you go to are your family, and they just don't believe her, and it's hard, you know, it's emotional, but it's very good. Okay, so the next film is called The Woman in the Window. This is very similar to sort of Hitchcock story of Rear Window, you know, and it's about a lady who has agoraphobia, so she doesn't go out. She's got a lot of time just looking out the window. She's got new neighbours, and it's the things she witnesses and trying to prove that she's seen these things that she witnesses. So you know, it's Rear Window, is it that Hitchcock film, I believe it is, but it's on those lines, you know, someone who sees things and is shut indoors but needs to tell people what's gone on, and it's really exciting. So The Woman in the Window, that's on Netflix. Okay, another film, I rewatched a couple of films that I haven't seen for a while, and I love this one. This is one, I've seen this so many times. It's with Denzel Washington, and it's called The Bone Collector. And he is paraplegic. He's been shot. He was a policeman and he was shot, and it left him just, he's, you know, on a machine where he does everything. He moves his computer with its straw, breathing, and all his machine, but he can't move at all. But his mind is brilliant. He still has this brilliant mind. And murders start happening. And he watches on his big screen in front of him what's going on. And he realises that this is a copycat. That these murders that are taking place have been done before. This has been done before in the same sort of pattern. It's following the same sort of pattern, how each person is murdered. And he takes a little piece of bone from everybody. That's why the film's called The Bone Collector. He gets a rookie policewoman, and he asks her to be, you know, his eyes and go to the places. And everybody's saying, well, you know, you need an established person. But he doesn't want that. He wants this young rookie whose father was also a policeman who he knew, and that's Angelina Jolie, and it's an excellent film. It's one of my all-time favourite films, And if you haven't seen it, honestly, The Bone Collector is terrific, and I really suggest it. Another film I've watched again, and I must watch about twice a year, and I love it. It's my favourite film ever, and that's The Theshank Redemption. And I'm sure I haven't got to explain to anybody what The Theshank Redemption is. It's a guy who's wrongly imprisoned for many years, and how he gets out, and how the story of his life, and he makes a friend. Is Tim Robbins is the guy, and he makes a friend of an older prisoner, an old hack, an inmate that knows the ropes, and that's Morgan Freeman, and he's called Red in it. And it's how the friendship is bonded. Now, it turns to a wonderful friendship, and how trust is built, and how loyalty is built. It's so many aspects of, human feelings, and it's wonderfully written. It's Stephen King wrote it, and it's not his normal sort of horror thing, but it's amazing. It's I'd say my favourite film ever. It was made on a very low budget. Nobody expected it to sort of take off as it did, but it is extremely popular. And if you've never seen The Theshank Redemption, please go ahead and try and find it on Netflix, or you can have it Netflix or Prime Video. Sometimes they swap over. But I think I watched it on Netflix. I do believe it was Netflix. But The Theshank Redemption. So that was about a month ago, but I'm sure it was Netflix. Okay, so my last film is called Girl on a Train. I've read this book. I read it a couple of times. I read it with my book group that I used to be in before COVID, and I've read it again, and the film is really good. It's about a woman, and she's very nervous, very depressive, and she goes to work on a train, and she doesn't really care. She sort of slumps back and watches, but she looks out the window, and she passes the same places all the time, and she passes the back of the house where she used to live, and about three houses from that, she sees a woman in the garden and a couple in the garden, and she imagines their life is wonderful, and she imagines this is what she should have, because she split up with her husband. That's caused a mega depression, and she's really unhappy, and she sees this woman in this back garden, and he on the balcony, and he cuddles her, and they're obviously a happy couple, and she thinks, why wasn't that me? Why couldn't that happen to me? It's just about 3 doors from where she used to live. Until one day the train passes, and she sees something quite different. And obviously she wants to tell straight away. And she does, and she tells certain people, and she tells her husband, and no one believes her. And it's a story about what happened, how it happened, who it is, how these people are connected to her. It's really exciting. I really liked it. I didn't guess it at the beginning. I'm normally quite good. I normally spot the storyline well early, but I didn't with this one. I didn't. But I really liked it. So Girl on the Train, that's my last film. Okay, TV series. So the first series that I really enjoyed, although it was, it's reality, it's a documentary, and it's called Sons of Sam. I've heard of that here in the UK, I've heard of Sons of Sam, but I didn't really know the story of it. But it's the 70s, and it's New York in the 70s, and how this random killer absolutely took New York down and was so terrified. Everybody was so terrified. And it was really, I heard him, but I didn't realise the chaos and everything that this son Sam did. So if you're in the US or you were in New York and you remember that situation, please tell me, because I was so interested in it. You know, over in the UK we didn't, I suppose we heard about it, but it wasn't obviously the terror, and it was in the 70s, and I don't remember anything being as horrific or being said as horrific as these poor New Yorkers were living. It was awful, awful. So if you know that or know actually about Sons of Sam, please write and tell me. Leave me a comment about that. It's really, really interesting. The next series I watched, and quite a few, so I was watching it for quite a few days, is called The Midwife. Now, I watched Call the Midwife, but as I said earlier, it was sort of 1 week, then I watched the next, and maybe I missed a week, and then I watched the next, you know. But because it's in the box sets, and I think it's 6 series, and they're all there. They're all there right from the beginning. And I so thoroughly enjoyed that. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. If you haven't seen Call the Midwife, like I'm saying again, please watch it. It's so thoroughly interesting. So it's about midwives and nuns that live together in this big house, and they're midwife nuns, because back in the day, that's a lot of the nuns were midwives, and it's in the East London area. And for me, that's where I come from, that's where I was born, so I know all the streets and everything, and everywhere they go, and the area they're talking about, so I know it's where I was born and brought up. And it's how different, I mean, it is so different now. When you see the women then, and how the midwives would go to the house, and I mean, it's nothing like that now, you know, none of this sort of flashy hospital equipment. And I mean, they were taken off to hospital should they need a C-section or anything like that, but most births were done in the house, at home, you know, with these midwives, either the nun, or the nun would go with the actual nurse midwife. And it's about these girls, and you get to know all their lives, and the nuns' lives, and the friendships that are formed, and it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful, heartfelt series that I will probably watch all over again. I loved it. I absolutely loved it, called The Midwife. I also watched a lot of documentaries about the royal family this month. I think, you know, Prince Philip died, obviously, you know that. So a lot of things have come on about the royal family. I'm trying to look at the different programs here. There's one called, actually based on Prince Philip, and there's one called Elizabeth and Margaret, that's the Queen and her sister when they were young girls growing up. There's The Crown, obviously, which so many of us have watched. And then there's The Windsors, that's another show, all on Netflix. And I've been really, really fascinated about the royal family, particularly over the last month or so. I always think, I don't know if your feelings on what's happening with Harry, and I don't want to talk too much about it because I respect everybody's feelings, you know. I respect everybody's thoughts and how they view things, but my thoughts on Prince Harry are, you know, yes, he's spoken up. Yes, he has spoken up, and he's not been dubbed. He's said from the heart what he feels. I feel he's said from the heart. People are saying, "Oh, it's terrible. He's let the royal family down. He's, he's been who he's associating with and who he's with, and the lifestyle he's leading. He's let the royal family down, and Meghan's done this and Meghan's done that." And there's a whole big money-making game out of this. There really is, because it's selling newspapers, it's selling books, it's selling YouTube videos, it's selling the whole thing has blown up into such interest, and the media have blown it up to make it front page all the time, that it is grossly exaggerated. This is my feelings, yes, a lot of people are saying he walked away from his duties, but I just feel that he stood up and been honest. I feel he's been honest. I feel he didn't want that life for his wife, and I don't think he wanted, you know, her to be hounded and hounded and hounded, but she still is where she is. The media will never give up. They'll hound her. The channels will never get up. They hound her all the time. She's just had her second baby, a little girl, Lilibet Diana. And Lilibet is what they used to call the Queen. The Queen's family, King George and Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mother, used to call her Lilibet, the Queen Elizabeth, when she was a little girl. So Lilibet and then Diana, of course. I thought that was really nice. That was really nice. And I just think, while there's money-making game, I honestly think it's just a huge money-making game. I do. And I honestly could not put my head on my pillow at night to hound someone the way she's hounded. And what are they going to do? Cry when she's, you know, in a car crash into a quiet tunnel somewhere? They're all going to cry. I don't, it's just, I just think it's such hypocrisy. I really do. And if the media or the channels or anybody or the books want to say how embarrassed, you know, they've made the Queen and who they're associating with, I think they need to look a little bit closer home, really. I mean, they're not famous for associating with Epstein, are they? You know, they could have a lot worse associations than what Prince Harry does, but nothing's said about that. No title has been stripped there. You know, nobody's embarrassed the Queen there. It's Harry and Meghan that's done it, and to me, that's just complete hypocrisy. But I do appreciate your view. I do appreciate how you feel about that matter. And I don't, you know, I'll respect your view. Please respect mine. That is just my idea. But I think it's just a big money-making game because it sells papers and sells stories and, you know, scores points. And that's not for me at all. Another series I have watched is Whitechapel. Whitechapel is a modern day take on the Whitechapel murders and copycat killers, and because obviously most of us know Whitechapel is famous for Jack the Ripper. For me, it's famous for the biscuits. I make Whitechapel biscuits a lot. They are biscuits that were made sort of in hard times, and they're very cheap to make but very, very tasty. Whitechapel biscuits. And when I think of Whitechapel, I always think of the biscuits. I'll make them for you if you like one day. So it's about the modern take on Jack the Ripper. There is some copycats, there is some you know, shady coppers, and it's really, really good. It's really interesting, and again, probably more for me because I come from that area. I love anything to do with that area. But they're really good stories. They are really intriguing stories, and you learn a lot more about Jack the Ripper too. And that was something long before my time, but very scary. Now, books. I like audiobooks. And I belong to the Audible Club, which I'm sure many of you do as well. It's a marvellous club. It's a monthly fee. I think it's about £8 a month here for one book. But unbeknownst to me, and I am so pleased and found out, YouTube have got 4 audiobooks. So if you put in the search bar in YouTube, full audiobook, there's so many that have come up. And I've listened to lots this month. Obviously, there's no cost, and you can just put it back to where you had it before. Obviously, you've got to have the screen on, but you can darken that down. But it's just so good. They're so good. And the one that really, one of the ones that I liked an awful lot, oh, just come on then, is one called White Lies. Oh my goodness. It's about this woman, and she's disappointed with her husband's had a fling. And she can't, forgive him in her heart. She's so disappointed. She's happily married, she thought. So she goes out on a girls' night out. And it's a weekend out actually, because they go to Ibiza. And she hooks up with a guy there. A young, much, much younger guy. And she wakes up in the morning and she spent the night with him. She goes home. As soon as she goes home, she tells her husband. And her husband's, oh, this disgusting. And, he said, I suppose it's tit for tat. What can I do because I've done it, and so forth. But this boy in Ibiza, who she hooks up with, is connected to people she knows in the UK. And how this backfires, how this story develops and backfires on this woman is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But White Lines, I would definitely look for that. I'll put a link for it below on YouTube, but I'll put a link because you've got to listen to it. It's wonderful. So this video doesn't go on forever. Honestly, I recommend you try the audiobooks on YouTube. I was amazed. I don't think I'll even bother with Audible for a couple of months. I put it on hold for a couple of months because there's so many I would like on here. Obviously not the newer ones, Audible you can get the new releases. But a couple to watch are Behind Closed Doors, excellent book, excellent. Guest House, another excellent book. And The Light We Cannot See is another excellent audiobook. So I'll list all these below, and honestly, if you like audiobooks, because I have them on when I'm doing my housework, I just walk around doing my housework, So yeah, I really would suggest you check out the YouTube audiobooks. Okay, so that's all the entertainment for this month. I will link as much as I can below, and I hope that you really, click on some of the links that I leave, and I hope you get enjoyment as much as I did. I'll do this again next month, and hopefully I might be able to get out a little bit more by then. I will see you again Tuesday with another beauty video. Take care, have a wonderful weekend, and I love you all. Bye.